The Tale of the Fisherman and the Jinni. It hath reached me, auspicious king, that there was a fisherman, well stricken in years, who had a wife and 3 children, and withal was of poor condition. Now it was his custom to cast his net every day 4 times, and no more. On a day he went forth about noontide to the seashore, where he laid down his basket, and, tucking up his shirt and plunging it into the water, made a cast with his net and waited till it settled to the bottom. Then he gathered the cords together and hauled away at it, but found it weighty, and however much he drew it landwards, he could not pull it up. So he carried the ends ashore and drove a stake into the ground and made the net fast to it. Then he stripped and dived into the water all about the net, and left not off working hard until they had bought it up. He rejoiced therein, and, donning his clothes, went to the net, when he found in it a dead jackass which he had torn to meshes. Now when he saw it, he exclaimed in his grief, "There is no majesty, and there is no might save in Allah the glorious, the great." Then quoth he, "This is a strange manner of daily bread." The fisherman, when he had looked at the dead ass, got it free of the toils, and wrung out and spread his net. Then he plunged into the sea, saying, "In Allah's name," and made a cast and pulled at it, but it grew heavy, and settled down more firmly than the first time. Now he thought that there were fish in it, and he made it fast, and doffing his clothes went into the water, and diced and hauled until he drew it up upon dry land. Then he found he in it a large earthen pitcher, which was full of sand and mud, so he prayed pardon of Allah, throwing away the jar, wrung his net and cleansed it, and returned to the sea a 3rd time, to cast his net and waited till it had sunk. Then he pulled at it, and found therein pot shards and broken glass. Then raising his eyes heavenward, he said, "O my God, verily thou wottest that I cast not my net each day save 4 times. The 3rd is done, and as yet thou hast vouchsafed me nothing. So this time, O my God, deign give me my daily bread." Then, having called on Allah's name, he again threw his net, and waited its sinking and settling, whereupon he hailed at it, but he could not draw it in, for that it was entangled at the bottom. He cried out in vexation, "There is no majesty, and there is no might, save in Allah." Thereupon he stripped, and diving down to the net, busied himself with it until it came to land. Then he opened the meshes, and found therein a cucumber-shaped jar of yellow copper, evidently full of something, whose mouth was made fast with a leaden cap, stamped with the seal ring of our Lord Suleiman, son of David, Allah accept it twain. Seeing this, the fisherman rejoiced and said, "If I sell it in the brass bazaar, 'tis worth 10 golden dinars." He shook it, and finding it heavy, continued, "Would to heaven I know what is herein, but I must and will open it, and look to its contents, and store in my bag, and sell it in the brass market." And taking out a knife, he worked at the lead until he had loosened it from the jar. Then he laid the cup on the ground and shook the vase to pour out whatever might be inside. He found nothing in it, whereat he marveled with an exceeding marvel. But presently there came forth from the jar a smoke which spired heavenward into ether, whereat he again marveled with mighty marvel, and which trailed along earth's surface until presently, having reached its full height, the thick vapor condensed, and became an ifrit, huge of bulk, whose crest touched the clouds, with his feet were on the ground. His head was as a dome, his hands like pitchforks, his legs long and masts, and his mouth big as a cave. His teeth were like large stones, his nostril ewers, his eyes 2 lamps, and his look was fierce and lowering. Now when the fisherman saw the ifrit, his side muscles quivered, his teeth chattered, his spittle dried up, and he became blind about what to do. Upon this the ifrit looked at him and cried, "There is no God but the God, and Suleiman is the prophet of God," presently adding, "O apostle of Allah, slay me not, never again will I gainsay thee in word, nor sin against thee in deed." Quoth the fisherman, "O Marid, didst thou say Suleiman the apostle of Allah? And Suleiman is dead some 1,800 years ago, and we are now in the last days of the world. What is thy story, and what is thy account of thyself, and what is the cause of entering into this cucurbit?" Now when the evil spirit heard the words of the fisherman, quoth he, "There is no God but the God. Be of good cheer, O fisherman." Quoth the fisherman, "Why biddest thou me to be of good cheer?" And he replied, "Because of thy having to die in ill death in this very hour." Said the fisherman, Thou deservest for thy good tidings the withdrawal of heaven's protection, O thou distant one. Wherefore shouldest thou kill me? And what thing have I done to deserve death? I, who freed thee from the jar, and saved thee from the depths of the sea, and brought thee upon the dry land. Replied the Ifrit, Ask of me only what mode of death thou wilt die, and by what manner of slaughter shall I slay thee? Rejoined the fisherman, What is my crime, and wherefore such retribution? Quoth the Ifrit, Hear my story, O fisherman. And he answered, Say on, and be brief in thy saying, for very sooth my life breath is in my nostrils. Thereupon quoth the Jinni, Know that I am one amongst the heretical Jan, and I sinned against Suleiman, David's son, on the twain be peace. I together with the famous Sakir al-Jinni, whereupon the prophet sent his minister Asaph, son of Barkiya, to seize me, and his vizier brought me against my will, and led me in bonds to him, I being downcast despite my nose, and he placed me standing before him like a supplicant. When Suleiman saw me, he took refuge with Allah, and made me embrace the true faith and obey his behests. But I refused. So sending for this cucurbit, he shut me up therein, and he stopped it over with lead, whereon he impressed the most high name, and gave his orders to the Jann, who carried me off and cast me into the midmost of the ocean. There I abode 100 years, during which I said in my heart, Whoso shall release me, him will I enrich for ever and ever. But the full century went by, and when no one set me free, I entered upon a second 50, saying, Who shall release me? For him I will fulfill 3 wishes. Yet no one set me free. Thereupon I waxed wroth with exceeding wrath, and said to myself, Whoso shall release me from time forth, him will I slay, and I will give him choice of what death he will die. And now, as thou hast released me, I give thee full choice of deaths. The fisherman, hearing the words of the Ifrit, said, O Allah, the wonder of it that I have not come to free thee save thee in these days. Adding, Spare my life, so Allah spare thine, and slay me not, lest Allah set one to slay thee. Replied the contagious one, There is no help for it, die thou must. So ask me by way of boon, which manner of death thou wilt die. Albeit thus certified, the fisherman again addressed the Ifrit, saying, Forgive me. This my death as a generous reward for having freed thee, said the Ifrit. Surely I would not slay thee save on account of that same release. O chief of the Ifrits, said the fisherman, I do thee good, and thou requitest me with evil. Now when the Ifrit heard these words, he answered, No more talk. Needs must I kill thee. Upon this the fisherman said to himself, This is a Jinni, and I am a man to whom Allah has given a pass-by. I am a man to whom which Allah has given a passably cunning wit. So I will now cast about to compass his destruction by my contrivance and mine intelligence, even as he took counsel only of his malice and his frowardness. He began by asking the Ifrit, Hast thou indeed resolved to kill me? And, receiving for all answer, Even so, he cried, Now in the most great name, graven on the seal ring of Suleiman, the son of David, peace be with the holy twain, am I questioned thee on a certain matter, which thou givest me a true answer? The Ifrit replied, Yea. But hearing mention of the most great name, his wits were troubled, and he said with trembling, Ask and be brief. Quoth the fisherman, How didst thou fit into this bottle, which would not hold thy hand, no, nor even thy foot? And how came it to be large enough to contain the whole of thee? Replied the Ifrit, What? Dost thou not believe that I was all there? And the fisherman rejoined, Nay, I will never believe it until I see the inside with mine own eyes. The evil spirit on the instant shook and became a vapor, which condensed and entered the jar little by little, till all was well inside, and lo! The fisherman in hot haste took the leaden cap with the seal and stoppered therein the mouth of the jar, and called out to the Ifrit, saying, Ask me my which way a boon which death thou wilt die. By Allah, I will throw thee into the sea before us, and here I will build me a lodge. And whoso cometh hither, I will warn him against fishing, and will say, In these waters abideth an Ifrit, who giveth out of the last favor a choice of deaths and fashion of slaughter to the man who saveth him. Now when the Ifrit heard this from the fisherman, and saw himself in limbo, he was minded to escape. But this was prevented by Suleiman's seal. So he knew that the fisherman had cozened and outwitted him, and he waxen lowly and submissive, and began humbly to say, I did but jest with thee. But the other answered, Thou liest, O vilest of the Ifrits, and meanest and filthiest. And he set off with the bottle for the seaside, the Ifrit calling out, Nay, nay, and he calling out, Aye, aye. Therein the evil spirit softened his voice and smoothed his speech, and abased himself, saying, What wouldest thou do with me, O fisherman? I will throw thee back into the sea, he answered, where thou hast been housed and homed for 1,800 years, and now I will leave thee therein till judgment day. Did I not say to thee, Spare me, and Allah shall spare thee, and slay me not, lest Allah shall slay thee? Yet thou spurnedest my supplication, and hadst no intention save to deal ungraciously by me, and Allah hath now thrown thee into my hands, and I am cunninger than thou. Quoth the Ifrit, Open for me, that I may bring thee weal. Quoth the fisherman, Thou liest, thou accursed. If thou hadst spared me, I would have spared thee, but nothing would satisfy thee save my death. So now I will do thee jailing thee in this jar, and I will hurl thee into the sea. Then the Marid roared aloud and cried, Allah upon thee, O fisherman, don't! Spare me and pardon my past doings, and as I have been tyrannous, so be thou generous. For it is said among sayings that go current, O thou who doest good to him who hath done thee evil, suffice for the ill-doer his ill deeds, and do not deal with me as did Umna to Akya. Asked the fisherman, And what was their cause? And the Ifrit answered, This is not the time for storytelling, and I in this prison, but set me free, and I will tell thee the tale. Quoth the fisherman, Leave this language, there is no help, but that thou be thrown back into the sea, nor is there any way for thy getting out of it ever and ever. Vainly I placed myself under thy protection, and I humbled myself to thee with weeping, while thou soughtest only to slay me, who had done thee no injuries deserving this at my hands. Nay, so far from injuring thee by any evil act, I worked thee not, but wealed in releasing thee free from that jail of thine. Now I knew thee to be an evildoer, when thou didst to me what thou didst, and know that when I have cast thee back into this sea, I will warn whomsoever may fish thee up of what hast befallen me. And I will advise him to toss thee back again. So shalt thou abide here under these waters till the end of time shall make an end of thee. But the Ifrit cried aloud, Set me free. This is a noble occasion for generosity, and I make the covenant with thee, and vow never to do thee hurt or harm. Nay, I will help thee to what shall put thee out of want. The fisherman accepted his promises on both conditions, not to trouble him as before, but on the contrary to do him service, and after making firm the plight and swearing him a solemn oath by Allah most highest, he opened a cucubit. Thereupon the pillar of smoke rose till all of it was fully out. Then it thickened and once more became an Ifrit of hideous presence, whom forthright administered a kick to the bottle and sent it flying into the sea. The fisherman, seeing how the cucubit was treated and making sure of his own death, piddled in his clothes and said to himself, This promiseth badly. But he fortified his heart and cried, O Ifrit, Allah hath said, Perform your covenant, for the performance of your covenant shall be inquired into hereafter. Thou hast made a vow to me, and hast sworn an oath not to play me false, lest Allah play thee false. For verily he is a jealous God, who respiteth the sinner, but letteth him not escape. Spare me, so Allah may spare thee. The Ifrit burst into laughter and stalked away, saying to the fisherman, "Follow me." And the man paced after him at a safe distance, for he was not assured of escape, till they had passed round the suburbs of the city. Thence they struck into the uncultivated grounds, and crossing them descended into a broad wilderness, and lo, in the midst of it stood a mountain tarn. The Ifrit waded into the middle and again cried, "Follow me." And when this was done, he took his stand in the center and bade the man cast his net and catch his fish. The fisherman looked into the water and was much astonished to see therein varicolored fishes, white and blue, blue and yellow. However, he cast his net, and, hauling it in, saw that he had netted 4 fishes, one of each color. Thereat he rejoiced greatly, and more, when the Ifrit said to him, "Carry these to the Sultan, and set them in his presence. Then he will give thee what shall make thee a wealthy man. And now accept my excuse, for by Allah at this time I want not other way of benefiting thee, inasmuch I have lain in the sea 1800 years, and have not seen the face of the world save within this hour. But I would not have thee fish here save once a day." The Ifrit then gave him Godspeed, saying, "Allah grant thee meet again," and struck the earth with one foot, whereupon the ground clove asunder and swallowed him up. The fisherman, much marveling at what had happened to him with the Ifrit, took the fish and made for the city. And as soon as he reached home, he filled an earthen bowl with water, and therein threw the fish, which began to struggle and wriggle about. Then he bore off the bowl upon his head, and repairing to the king's palace, even as the Ifrit had bidden him, laid the fish before the presence. And the king wondered with exceeding wonder at the sight, for never in his lifetime had he seen fishes like these in quality or in conformation. So he said thee, "Give those fish to the stranger slave girl who now cooketh for us," meaning the bondmaiden, whom the king of Roum had sent to him only 3 days before, so that he had not yet made trial of her talents in the dressing of meat. Thereupon the vizier carried the fish to the cook and bade her fry them, saying, "O damsel, the king sendeth this say to thee, I have not treasured thee a tear to me, save for stress time of me. Approve then to us this day thy delicate handiwork and thy savory cooking. For this dish of fish is a present sent to the Sultan, and evidently a rarity." The vizier, after he had carefully charged her, returned to the king, who commanded him to give the fisherman 400 dinars. He gave them accordingly, and the man took them to his bosom, and ran off stumbling and falling and rising, and deeming the whole thing to be a dream. However, he bought for his family all they wanted, and lastly he went to his wife in huge joy and gladness. So far concerning him. But as regards to the cook maiden, she took the fish and cleansed them and set them in the frying pan, basting them with oil till one side was dressed. Then she turned them over, and behold, the kitchen wall clave asunder, and therefrom came a young lady, fair of form, oval of face, perfect in grace, with eyelids which kohl lines in chase. Her dress was a silken headkerchief, fringed and tasseled with blue. A large ring hung from either ear. A pair of bracelets adorned her wrists. Rings with bezels of priceless, colorful gems were on her fingers, and she, hand in hand, a long rod of rattan cane, which she thrust into the frying pan, saying, O fish, be ye constant to your covenant." When the cook maiden saw this apparition, she swooned away. The young lady repeated her words a second time and a third time, and at last the fishes raised their heads from the pan, and saying in articulate speech, "Yes, yes," began with one voice to recite, "Come back, and so will I. Keep faith, and so will I. But if ye fain forsake, I'll requite till quits we cry." After this, the young lady upset the frying pan, and went forth by the way she came in, and the kitchen wall closed upon her. When the cook maiden recovered from her fainting fit, she saw the 4 fishes charred black as charcoal, and crying out, "His staff broke in the first bout." This is, of course, applying to her own cause. She again fell swooning to the ground. Whilst she was in this case, the vizier came for the fish, and looking upon her as insensible as she lay, not knowing Sunday from Thursday, shoved her with his foot and said, "Bring the fish for the Sultan." Thereupon, recovering from her fainting fit, she wept and informed him of her case and all that had befallen her. The vizier marveled greatly, and exclaiming, "This is none other than a right strange matter," he sent after the fisherman and said to him, "Thou, O fisherman, must needs fetch us 4 fishes like those thou boughtest before." Thereupon the man repaired to the tarn and cast his net, and when he landed it, lo, 4 fishes were therein, exactly like the first. These he at once carried to the vizier, who went in with them into the cookmaiden, and said, "Up with thee, and fry these in my presence, that I may see this business." The damsel arose and cleansed the fish, and set them in the frying pan over the fire. However, they remained there but a little while, ere the wall clave asunder, and the young lady appeared, clad as before, and holding in hand a wand, which she again thrust into the frying pan, saying, O fish, ye constant to your olden covenant." And behold, the fish lifted their heads, and repeated, "Yes, yes," and recited this couplet: "Come back, and so will I. Keep faith, and so will I. But if ye fain forsake, I'll requite till quits we cry." Now when the fishes spoke, and the young lady upset the frying pan with her rod, and went forth by the way she came, and the wall closed up, the vizier cried out, "This is a thing not to be hidden from the king." So he went and told the king what had happened, whereupon quoth the king, "There is no help for it, but that I see this with mine own eyes." Then he sent for the fisherman again, and commanded him to bring 4 other fish like the first, and to take with him 3 men as witnesses. The fisherman at once bought the fish, and the king, after ordering them to give him 400 gold pieces, turned to the vizier and said, "Up and fry me the fishes here before me." The minister replying, "To hear is to obey," bade bring the frying pan, threw therein the cleansed fish, and set it over the fire, and lo, when the wall came asunder, and out burst the black slave like a huge rock, or a remnant, or the tribe Ad, bearing in hand a branch of a green tree, and he cried loud in terrible tones, O fish, be all ye constant to your antique covenant." Whereupon the fishes lifted their heads from the frying pan, and again said, "Yes, yes, we are true to our vow," and they again recited the couplet: "Come back, and so will I. Keep faith, and so will I. But if ye fain forsake, I'll requite till quits we cry." Then the huge blackamoor approached the frying pan, and upset it with a branch, and went forth by the way he came in. When he vanished from their sight, the king inspected the fish, and finding them all charred black as charcoal, was utterly bewildered, and said to the vizier, "Verily, this is a matter wherein silence cannot be kept. And as for the fishes, assuredly some marvelous adventure connects with them." So he bade bring back the fisherman, and asked him, saying, "Fie on thee, fellow, whence come these fishes?" And he answered, "From a tarn between 4 heights, lying below this mountain, which is in sight of thy city." Quoth the king, "How many days' march?" Quoth he, "O our lord, the Sultan, a walk of half an hour." The king wondered, and straightway ordering his men to march and horsemen to mount, led off the fisherman, who went before as a guide, privily damning the Ifrit. They fared on till they had climbed the mountain, and descended unto a great desert, which they had never seen during all their lives. And the Sultan and his merry men marveled much at the world set in the midst of 4 mountains, and the tarn and its fishes of 4 colors, red and white, yellow and blue. The king stood fixed to the spot in wonderment, and asked his troops, and all present, "Hath anyone amongst you ever seen this piece of water before now?" And all made an answer, "O king of the age, never did we set eyes upon it during all our days." They also questioned the oldest inhabitants they met, men with well stricken in their years, but they replied, each and every, "A lakelet like this we have never seen in this place." Thereupon quoth the king, "By Allah, I will neither return to my capital, nor sit upon the throne of my forebears till I learn the truth about this tarn and the fish therein." He then ordered his men to dismount and bivouac all round the mountain, which they did, and summoning his vizier, a minister of much experience, sagacious and of penetrating wit, and well versed in affairs, said to him, "'Tis in my mind to do a certain thing whereof I will inform thee, for my heart telleth me to fare forth along this night, and root out the mystery of this tarn and its fishes. Do thou take thy seat at my tent door, and say to the emirs and viziers, the nabobs and the chamberlains, in fine to all who ask thee, the Sultan is ill at ease, and he had hath ordered me to refuse all admittance. And be careful thou not let none know thy my design. And the vizier could not oppose him. Then the king changed his dress and ornaments, and slinging his sword over his shoulder, took a path which led up one of the mountains, and marched for the rest of the night until the morning dawned. Nor did he cease wayfaring till the heat was too much for him. After his long walk, he rested for a while, and then resumed his march, and fared on through the second night until dawn, when suddenly there appeared a black point in the far distance. Hereat he rejoiced, and said to himself, Haply someone here shall acquaint me with the mystery of the tarn and its fishes. Presently drawing near the dark object, he found it a palace built of swart stones plated with iron, and while one leaf of the gate stood wide open, the other was shut. The king's spirit rose high as he stood before the gate and rapped a light rap, but hearing no answer, he knocked a second knock and a third, yet there came no sign. Then he knocked his loudest, but still no answer, so he said, Doubtless 'tis empty. Thereupon he mustered up resolution, and boldly walked through the main gate into the great hall, and there cried aloud, Holla, ye people of this place, of this palace, I am a stranger and a wayfarer. Have you aught here of victual? He repeated his cry a second time, and a third, but still there came no reply. So strengthening his heart and making up his mind, he stalked through the vestibule into this very middle of the palace, and found no man in it. Yet it was furnished with silken stuffs, gold-starred, and the hangings let down over the doorways. In the midst was a spacious court, off which sat 4 open saloons, each with its raised dais, saloon facing saloon. A canopy shaded the court, and in the center was a jetting font with 4 figures of lions made of red gold, spouting from their mouths water clear as pearls and diaphanous gems. Round about the palace birds were let loose, and over it stretched a net of golden wire, hindering them from flying off. In a brief, there is everything but human beings. The king marveled mightily thereat, yet felt he sad at his heart, for that he saw no one to give him an account of the waste and its tarn, the fishes, the mountains, the palace itself. Presently, as he sat between the doors in deep thought, behold, there came a voice of lament, as from a heart grief spent, and he heard the voice chanting verses. Now, when the Sultan heard the mournful voice, he sprang to his feet, and following the sound found a curtain let down over a chamber door. He raised it, and saw behind it a young man sitting upon a couch, about a cubit above the ground. And he fair to the sight, a well-shaped wight, with eloquence dight. His forehead was flower white, his cheek rosy bright, and a mole on his cheek breath like an ambergris mite. The king rejoiced and saluted him, but he remained sitting in his kaftan of silken stuff, purified with Egyptian gold, and his crown studded with gems of sorts, but his face was sad with the traces of sorrow. He returned the royal salute in most courteous wise, adding, O my lord, thy dignity demandeth my rising to thee, and my sole excuse is to crave thy pardon. Quoth the king, Thou art excused, O youth, so look upon me as thy guest, come hither on a special object. I would thou acquaint me with the secrets of this tarn and its fishes, and of this palace and thy loneliness therein, and the cause of thy groaning and wailing. When the young man heard these words, he wept with some weeping, till his bosom was drenched with tears. The king marveled and asked him, What maketh thee weep, O young man? And he answered, How should I not weep when this is my case? Thereupon he put out his hand and raised the skirt of his garment, when lo! The lower half of him appeared stone down to his feet, while from his navel to the hair of his head he was man. The king seeing his plight, grieved with sore grief, and of his compassion cried, Alack, and well away, in very sooth, O youth, thou heapeth sorrow upon my sorrow. I was minded to ask thee the mystery of the fishes only, whereas now I am concerned to learn thy story as well as theirs. But there is no majesty, and there is no might save in Allah, the glorious, the great. Lose no time, O youth, but tell me forthright thy whole tale. Quoth he, Lend me thine ears, thy sight, and thine insight. And quoth the king, All are at thy service. Thereupon the youth began, Right wondrous and marvellous is my case, and that of these fishes. And were it graven with gravers upon the eye corners, it were a warner to whoso would be warned. How was that? Asked the king. And the young man began to tell the tale of the ensorcelled prince. To be continued in chapter 3.